This is White Plains Week, the weekly roundup of White Plains, Westchester, and world news. With John Bailey, editor and publisher of the daily internet newspaper, White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, WPCNR.com. Jim Benneroff, editor and publisher of SuburbanStreet.com and WhitePlains.com. White Plains Week, what's happening? Who are the newsmakers? What's in store for the future? The views and opinions expressed on this program are solely those of the participants. White Plains Week is presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76, Verizon Fios Channel 45, and on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. Now, White Plains Week.
Good evening. Mr. and Mrs. and Ms. White Plains, New York, USA, and the world. Here now are the news headlines for the White Plains Week of February 19th, 2021. White Plains Democratic City Committee changes the Common Council lineup for the 2021 city election. Two-term incumbent Councilman John Kirkpatrick is benched and will not be on the ballot. Snowbirds should continue to shelter in place in Florida as snowy February continues. The U.S. Senate in Washington continues to wait for the Senate hen to lay its egg, while states and worried legislators want ideas from citizens. They don't need ideas from citizens, they need money. Country is in shock as Texas freezes up. Power goes away. Can it happen here? City of Yonkers Mayor Mike Spano opts to join Sustainable Westchester Electricity Cooperative, the program that Mayor Thomas Roach of White Plains brought into and has saved White Plains residents thousands of dollars. Even though snow is on the ground, it's not too early to discuss the state of real estate in White Plains, New York, USA. Stay with us for the president of the Hudson Valley Gateway Association of Realtors, Crystal Hawkins, joining us by the miracle of Zoom tonight, talking about your White Plains homes and the White Plains Realty reality this spring. COVID vaccines continue to be administered at warp speed at the Westchester County Center, but it's tough to get appointments because there's not enough vaccines. Westchester County, new COVID infections hit lowest rate since mid-November, declining to 3.8% this week of those tested in Westchester County, USA. It still means that about 129 hospitalizations a week could result in 10 days. But we're being more careful. New York State Senate and Assembly consider stripping Governor Cuomo of emergency powers to make COVID decisions without legislators' consent. And they push for reopening schools. And Rush Limbaugh, the king of talk radio, leaves the air. Now to the White Plains Week video newsreel March of Time for February 19th, 2021. At the City Democratic Committee meeting Thursday evening, John Kirkpatrick, two-term incumbent councilman, was defeated in a district leader floor vote that chose Richard Payne to run for the first time to the Common Council. Mayor Roach is expected to run for a third term as mayor, with the two remaining Democratic incumbents, John Martin, a two-term councilman, and Justin Brash running for a second term. Mr. Kirkpatrick was not nominated by the nominating committee. Instead, Mr. Payne, organization chair of the party, was recommended by the nominating committee, resulting in a floor discussion Thursday evening and vote ultimately confirming Mr. Payne as most assuredly a new councilman. This is not the first time an incumbent Democratic councilman has been removed from office by the party and not the voters. It happened to be to Bill King, Glenn Hockley, Arnold Bernstein in years past. It makes you wonder who really decides elections, at least in White Plains. It is not the voters. I'll answer that. It is the party, or the lack of interest by the opposition party. Is there one? Whether or not Mr. Kirkpatrick will mount a primary challenge in June, which is his right, remains to be seen. No statement has been issued yet announcing the change in lineup, but it is posted in the dugout. Meanwhile, in lonely Washington, D.C., the nation turns its expectant hopes to the U.S. Senate, still watching the Senate honorable hen to finish laying her egg. She's been trying for, 3 weeks now? And the hen continues to struggle while the Senate rested from its grueling second impeachment trial, and they are still crowing and achieving nothing. In another part of the country, Westchester County State Senate delegation held budget forums, 2 of them, asking citizens and organizations to tell them how they should proceed. The issues brought up were school funding, raising revenue, mitigating climate change, the costs of child care and home care, caregiver wages, an excluded workers fund, and legalizing marijuana. Lawmakers said the forums served as an opportunity for residents to make their voices heard as they prepare to negotiate the state budget. Yours truly, John Bailey, notes that these hearings were held by the New York State Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins, members of the Westchester Senate delegation, Senators Shelley Mayer, Jamal Bailey, Alessandra Biaggi, Peter Hardicum, and Elijah Reichlin-Melnick. And I quote the press release. Over 90 people testified, including community groups, local elected officials, and residents. And somewhat disingenuous, because the budget will be determined by the $1.9 trillion stimulus President Biden is trying to push through Congress, while the U.S. Senate and the House Democratic majority attempts to push the $1 trillion bill through. But they haven't started yet. The senators and assembly persons from Westchester are not going to be able to, quote, negotiate anything because there is no budget yet. No budget, friends. Governor Andrew Cuomo has said that without $15 billion from the federal government guaranteed by March 31st, and I would like to point out that is about 31, and today's the 19th, 38 days away, folks. 38 days to get us $15 billion. That, if they do not get that by March 31st, that has been talked about all summer by Democrats in the Senate, and nothing is happening while the hen in the Senate continues to struggle to pass her egg. Delay and talk. Prosecution of the other guy is now making the rounds of Fox, Newsmax, and his new lows in broadcasting networks, who continue to put the other guy, the other guy that we just tried, now unemployed, on the air for the ratings. Because he's news. Or is he news? So in essence, these hearings where people tell the senators and assembly persons, pardon me, what they want are public relations appearances by state senators and assembly persons to tell you they are working for you. They care about you and you have a say. Governor Cuomo, without the $15 billion, will make those cuts. Who knows? Maybe the state senate and assembly can pass an executive order pardon me, stopping the calendar so it will stay March 31st forever, or until the aid arrives, or maybe a bond for the whole $15 billion. That is a solution. But That would require state senators and assembly persons to make a decision. The last decision the leadership up there did was denying the Amazon headquarters in Queens. What a great decision that was. We could really use that now, couldn't we? I think so. It was snow week this week. 2 dire forecasts, none of which was as serious as predicted. And after snow over the weekend, we developed snow again Thursday into this morning, replacing the 9 inches of snow that had melted as February continued to stay white with frozen snow tundra, making getting those garbage pails out to the curb for the ever loyal, ever punctual, and always there DPW treacherous and clearing driveways a mess without snow blowers. So stay down there in FLA, snowbirds. Do not come back. And speaking of snow and cold, White Plains, New York has it easy compared to the poor people of Texas. Look at this front page. This is reminiscent of major hurricane disasters, but it was caused by a statewide power failure combined with temperatures you don't even want to think about feeling. The governor of Texas blamed it on solar power and wind turbines failure. I talked with Dan Welch of Westchester Power and Sustainable Wester, a frequent contributor to White Plains Week. I asked Mr. Welch if Con Edison and New York power companies could be literally frozen like the Texas power companies. Mr. Welch, who used to manage fossil fuel plants before he took his present job with Westchester Power, told me that solar power and turbine failures did not cause the power failure. He said that the power installations in Texas were not connected to outside Texas power grids because the state had chosen not to be subject to interstate power regulations, which is required if you join a national power grid. I asked him why New York power companies were not affected by deep freeze temperatures. His answer was so simple. He said the piping, gauges, and monitors that could freeze were housed in heated sheds to prevent them from freezing. What a concept! Who I guess Texas never thought it would get that low. Now, and of course, if a plant goes out, Welch said Con Ed has access to the grid supply for backup. It's usually blown over trees that cause outages in this state. But as the horror of the cold now still affects millions, Washington has to stop watching the hen try and lay an egg, something Congress does best, and rush National Guard and troop relief to Texas to prevent millions from freezing to death. Those poor people, where are the warmer tents? Can the Texas government do something? Please, you can see and I really cannot understand it. Can't they do anything except talk? Help our citizens down there, for God's sake. Like now. Pick up the phone and get troops down there to help out and warm them up. On a great green energy achievement, Mayor Spano, the city of Yonkers, announced officially last week it was joining Westchester Power with White Plains, which will vastly lower the price of green energy for consumers in towns like our own White Plains and Yonkers and the 25 other towns and cities in the program. It locks in your electric rate. Yonkers needs to promote this advantage to all its citizens. No more ricocheting summer rates. No more kilowatt hours through the roof to keep that AC going. I who pay electric bills without worry every month, thank you. Brenda Starr thanks you. I thank you. The mayor will also be participating in Electric Car Week next week at the county center on Monday. times to be announced. And maybe we might catch a glimpse of County Executive George Latimer there, the reclusive George Latimer. Soon the snow will be off the grass. Yes, the show will be off the grass. And we will be seeing spring in March, and the real estate selling season will be here. Right now, Crystal Hawkins-SYSKA of Keller Williams Realty in White Plains, New York, USA, joins us via the miracle of Zoom to talk about real estate reality in White Plains.
Ms. Hawkins-SYSKA with Keller Williams Realty. What is the White Plains market right now like?
Well, the White Plains market right now is still very, very hot. Even though commuting to the city has been lessened because of COVID-19, it hasn't changed the fact that White Plains continues to be an annex to New York City because of the transportation and life here in the Lower Hudson Valley area. So we're still seeing that the prices are on the uptick. In fact, if anything, when we look at where we are, inventory is low, and whatever we have is definitely flying off the shelves. Can I share a couple of little statistics about specifically what's happening in White Plains? Is that all right?
Lovely.
Okay, excellent. So just to give you an idea about where we are right now, there are currently about 415 homes actively for sale, and that's across the board. That's whether
that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. And in the last 6 months, 177 of those properties have sold. So when we look at that, essentially what we're looking at right now, we have 468 houses that have sold in the last 6 months. So based upon that statistic or that data, that means that there are about 78 houses selling per month. So if not one, right, exactly. So
that's
if not
two a day, 3 a day.
Right, 3 a day. So if not one more property came on the market today, like let's say everybody decided, guess what, we're not selling anymore, it would literally take 5 months to sell what we have currently as inventory. And that makes it honestly a very strong seller's market right now.
Well, this is held throughout the winter. This is
held throughout the winter. In fact, our office currently, like our office in White Plains currently, we hold over 100, actually, oops, sorry about that. We actually hold over 100 plus listings ourselves in our White Plains office. And literally we don't have enough to sell. As many as buyers are out there looking to buy.
Are people clamoring to see homes?
Yes, I would say so. It's one of the things that we've had to be very cautious and conscientious with the showings, because we're respecting the fact that we still are in the midst of the pandemic. So we are definitely watching how many people come into a home, making sure the homes are sanitized, people are wearing PPE. In some locations, some sellers, in order for their safety, have asked us to limit how many people can come into the home, namely 12 people per day, including the agent. So because of that, that's made the competition even tougher.
I've never heard of anything like that.
Yeah, it's the last time I saw something that looked like this was sort of in the heyday, like back in 2004 or 5, when people would just, you put a sign out in front of the house, and before you could actually drive away, you had an offer.
Those were
it feels sort of like that right about now.
Those days are here again. Right.
Yes, they are definitely here
again. Are prices holding up?
Yeah, so we are definitely seeing prices hold up. In terms of, one of the things we're looking at is as the assessed value, in terms of what does the town think the house is worth versus what the home is selling for. And we're definitely seeing that hold, if not increase, especially in the White Plains area. We even see that across the board in Westchester County.
Yeah, so that means the houses are not being assessed exponentially more when they sell, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Right. Which would go with what the assessor told me about a week ago, that he was not expecting a rise in the assessment roll, which is not great news. Why isn't there bidding driving the price up?
Why isn't the bidding driving the prices up?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think that where some of the assessed values in certain places were a little bit higher anyway, so what people are paying is following suit. Also remember too, we do have a tax cap, so we don't want to penalize homeowners for being able to sell their homes and then get hit really hard with a jump in their taxes. So because of that, that's a manufacture that's been put in place to protect the consumer so that there can't be a huge jump in taxes no matter what someone pays for their home.
Interesting. So if I have to sell fast, do I have to lower my expectations in price? Is it a choosy market?
It definitely is a choosy market. However, it's not so much changing your expectations in terms of price, but it is changing your expectations in terms of condition.
You can see a full-length People to be Heard interview with Ms. Hawkins-SYSKA next week, Thursday at 8 on People to be Heard, where she talks more real estate about Westchester, all around the county, and of course White Plains in more detail. Are you vaccinated yet? Hopefully you're on track to get shot 1 and 2 scheduled. But I must say the county center vaccination operation is outstanding. The best operation I've ever participated in that was government run. The problem is the amount of vaccine available, and Governor Cuomo reports this week the Department of Health is vaccinating, keeping close right up to the amount of supply left and ready to assign. It's very well organized from that standpoint. Meanwhile, Westchester COVID infections are down, down, down. What really great week of paying attention, folks. Look at that slimming infection rate. The average rate of positives for February 11th through 18th, Wednesday, was 4.2%, the lowest since mid-November of 2020, when Westchester County's second wave went into full swing. But we seem to be behaving ourselves. Keep it up. Wear masks. Do not socialize too close together. And Valentine sweethearts, careful with the kissing. Remember, as this slide shows, with over 350 new infections a day, this could mean at 5% hospitalizations, 129 being hospitalized in the next 10 days. And if this President's Week results in extensive social spread, we could be back into higher infection rates and slow possible school openings. And in another dubious effort to make themselves relevant, state senators and assemblypersons want to revoke the governor's ability to make executive decisions in the COVID emergency. They appear to want a panel of 10 state senators and assemblymen to make decisions about COVID restrictions or lifting of same. One lawmaker said the legislature can make decisions quickly when we need to. Is he kidding? I really couldn't believe that when I read it. Really, Governor Cuomo is now being attacked because he has done the greatest job in an emergency of any governor in New York memory. Nursing home lobby is blaming him for deaths. The senators and assembly who said nothing about nursing home problems in the spring, and have not asked why nursing homes have had COVID get into their homes in the first place and how they tried to prevent it. Well, they want now to take credit for a quicker recovery by opening things up. That is the state and assembly, and the vaccinations are not going quickly enough in the schools, vaccinating teaching and staff vaccinations to keep it safe for the kids. White Plains has a 3% infection rate on its 8,500 teachers and staff and pupils. That is below the county infection rate. Apparently, the county is not mandating vaccinations of staff and teachers, but will help if the districts want them. But no one from the county has answered my question on that. And how will sports, high school sports, now underway, affect infections? Senators and assemblymen queried the health department this week on being more flexible opening schools, but the health department said it is holding firm on that in terms of flexibility and loosening things up, and they are still following their own data. And finally tonight, Rush Limbaugh passed away. He died this week. It was announced the morning he was to go on the air. When he came on the air, his wife came on and announced that he had died from lung cancer. And he was broadcasting to the end. He was a legend. He transformed talk radio. He ad-libbed every show. He was always interesting. You may never have agreed what he said. I got turned off, didn't listen to him for many years when he said something about the Oklahoma City bombing. But he was at least there to say it. He was good, he was entertaining, he lampooned the liberals, and it was just entertaining radio. He invented a talk show, and he galvanized and was listened to by 28 million people. A great talent and one of a kind. Good night, Rush. You were a legend, and we will always remember you. This is John Bailey saying good night, Jim Brenneroff, and good night for White Plains Week.
This has been White Plains Week, news and commentary about White Plains, Westchester, and the world. The views and opinions expressed on this program were solely those of the participants. White Plains Week, produced by White Plains Citizen Net Reporter, and presented on Optimum Cable Channel 76 and Verizon Fios Channel 45. You may view White Plains Week anytime on the internet at whiteplainsweek.com, youtube.com, and wpcommunitymedia.org. For White Plains Week, this is Peter Katz speaking.